Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all having a nice evening. I know it's only just started. Before I start speaking and give you my spiel, we're going to start with the words of the Holy Quran. And so I'm going to call forward Muad Hambala to come forward and recite some verses of the Quran.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون.
We say our communities are like a fabric. It's a saying, isn't it? The fabric of our community. And to me, Islam Awareness Week and all the celebrations that we do, these are occasions for us to re-energize and reinvigorate all the work that we do to sew and to knit and to weave our communities together in Britain. We have a wonderful array of speakers lined up for today, from faith leaders to politicians and community workers, and maybe even a celebrity thrown in, but that'll become clear later on.
I start by first saying what a splendid venue chosen to launch the Islamic Awareness Week, and not that I have any bias, you understand. Particularly the Lady Mayoress. First, I'd like to start by thanking the Islamic Society of Great Britain for inviting me to join the start of the Islam Awareness Week. Originally initiated in 1994, its aim was to raise awareness and deal with the misconceptions portrayed at the time surrounding Britain's second largest faith. And we still, in 2012, have those misconceptions from certain groups, whether they be political groups, whether they be far-right groups, and even some sections of the media who portray Britain's second largest faith in perhaps an all too negative way. Islam Awareness Week has been used in assisting and enhancing community cohesion in Sheffield, where everyone is encouraged to participate and take part. And the good thing about this week is people young and old are encouraged to go and visit the many Muslim buildings, structures, artwork we have in Sheffield. People always say how friendly and welcoming Sheffield is, and I hope that many people in here can testify that that is the case. Sheffield as a city has a long and proud history from its days as a working hamlet to its development over the last 150 years as one of the country's major cities. Sheffield is home to over 500,000 people representing a rich diversity of ethnic origins and cultures that are all working together to make ours a lively, multicultural, multilingual city. Today is an opportunity to celebrate and enrich our cultural diversity. Sheffield, with its well-founded reputation for cultural diversity, is a great example of the extremely important values and principles that underpin British society. These are all fundamental in playing a key part in our society and in multicultural Sheffield. This is not to say that the city is where we strive to be. The city is still constantly improving, and we still have some way to go. But when we use Sheffield perhaps as a benchmark with other cities and towns, we can see that perhaps Sheffield is ahead, or maybe two heads in front. The 20th anniversary of Islam Awareness Week is an opportunity to celebrate the contributions of the Muslims in the unity of multi-faith Sheffield. And those contributions have been started by Abdul Guljar and his group, and 20 years ago when those started. Many people now probably take part in the multi-faith walk, which Abdul arranges year in, year out. And if anybody's not had the opportunity to take part in those walks, I'm sure that Abdul's willing to gather some names this evening. Any volunteers from the tables? I see all the heads nodding. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Islamic Society of Great Britain for its outstanding work to improve the well-being of our multicultural city. I, as the Lord Mayor and a citizen of Sheffield, am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Muslim brothers and sisters, and will continue to stand up against those who wish to use Islamophobia as a hatred tool and a tool to divide our city.
Most of all, I wanted to say that this is one of those events that you feel a real sense of gladness to be at. And you feel it because you know that the work is immensely important. And I hope you'll forgive me if I do something, you can ignore this. But can I just ask, of all of you in this room, when you were growing up and you were at school, in your teens, perhaps early teens, how many of you here actually had a friend from a different faith background? That's a lot of people compared to usual. And how many of you, like me, went to a school that had almost no different faiths in it? And those of you who've just put your hands up, have you in later life come to learn more about people through this sort of project? I mean, is Islam Awareness Week something you've taken part in before? I think this illustrates it. I mean, you'll forgive me talking personally just for a moment. I grew up not a long way away, although it may seem a very long way away, because it's west. I grew up between West and North Yorkshire in York, in large part. And the school I went to was almost entirely monocultural. We thought that Catholics were very unusual. They thought we were very unusual. We'd never talked about religion. It was the 1960s and 70s. People didn't talk about religion much. And when we did think about it, we thought it was strange and unusual, because we were taught RE as if religion was something you took out of a box. It was something that rather strange people did, whether they were Christian or whatever they were. And Inderjit Bogle, who I'm delighted to see here this evening, will have heard me tell the story before, and he'll forgive me, but it stayed with me all my life and has affected me, and it's amongst the reasons I'm here today. In the city of York, many centuries ago, there was a terrible massacre of the Jewish community. It's one of the black spots in British history. But we didn't learn about it when we were at school back then. I think now things would be different. But it didn't really feature in our sense of what our town was about. And we didn't really learn about Jews, except for really sort of drawing little stickman pictures of the tribes of Israel, or learning how to make phylacteries out of matchboxes, or learning quite dense pieces of history. Living Jewish people we didn't really know. And I think if I was, I use that as an example because back then people didn't even really think about Muslim involvement. But I realised as I got older how amazingly important it was to have chances to meet people. And what a blessing it was to be able to meet people. In my adult life, I ended up meeting people of many different faiths, and I learned a great deal from them. But I also learned a great deal about bigotry. Because I think that Islam Awareness Week has enormous importance because it addresses two things. One is our lives together. Because actually looking for the things we have in common, and the remarkable job Islam Awareness Week has done across 20 years of actually encouraging people to think about the positive things that we all do together and looking at the positive ways we can cooperate, that's one side. But the other part of it, sadly, is having to actually dispel the negative pictures. And I think that the work of Islam Awareness Week, and of course other initiatives like those of the Council of Christians and Jews, or more generally things like Sheffield Interfaith or Burngreave Ashram, a whole range of different initiatives locally, nationally, regionally, help people learn about other religions. So the negative and the positive for me go together. Islam Awareness Week is a blessing. It's a blessing because it brings a chance for people to meet, and it brings a chance to learn. But it's also a necessity, because we carry on living in a society where people still don't always have the chance to learn, and where sometimes they need their very negative pictures of each other just, I suppose, not exactly correcting, but they need to know that that's not what really necessarily it's all about.
I'm very proud to support Islamic Awareness Week, and this is so important because it's ignorance that brings prejudice, and it's awareness that brings understanding, and that's what we're all about, understanding. In the world of politics, the ethnic minority community actually has a long history. The first ethnic minority MP was elected in 1892 for Finchley Central for the Liberal Party, as it was then. We've come some way since then, in the intervening 100 and some years, but we've perhaps got further to go. On Sheffield City Council, we have representation from the ethnic minorities, and Lord Mayor. Our leader of our own particular group, Shafiq Mohammed, is obviously from the Islamic community, and I think that's very important. But there is no need for complacency in what we're doing. As previous two speakers have made me reflect on my own personal experience through life. Yes, I came from an area in North Yorkshire that was very much monocultural. I moved to Sheffield at 18 and saw a more diverse society, and that has been increasing through the time, and we need to celebrate these differences. I sort of then reflected back on my early years as a teacher in the 1970s in the north of Sheffield, and it really brought home to me, actually, it's awareness and understanding that we need. This, at the time, I was doing some work with the tutor group, and it was perhaps following on what stimulated it was perhaps Enoch Powell and repatriation and things like that. And there was discussion in the group about repatriation. You know, we ought to send all the immigrants back. And the discussion went on, and we said, you realise Dwayne, that would be Dwayne, Afro-Caribbean, would have to go back. No, not Dwayne. Dwayne's a good lad. We like Dwayne. It would mean Jayesh would have to go back, who's a Uganda nation. No, Jayesh is smashing, really good lad. He went on, Goyash. No, Goyash is fine. Goyash is fine. We know Goyash. The point about that was the people knew those people. They had an awareness and an understanding, and they weren't a threat. It's the threat of the unknown that perhaps is pervasive and dangerous. Once we know and understand, that goes away. Dr. Crabtree talked about negative images and so on. And too often we see conjunction of Islam with terrorist or extremist. And yes, perhaps there needs to be the PR, because Islam is neither of those things in the main, but the perception is different. And we need to work hard to undermine the perceptions that people have and be aware of what Islam is, because we all can do more in this. And it's an event like this that heightens that awareness of each other's cultures, enables us to celebrate each other's cultures and become less afraid of each other's cultures. And that's why I am very proud to support Islamic Awareness Week. Thank you.
Respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's been rather a hair-raising journey here, actually. So not only stuck in traffic, all sorts of blizzards and things, but seeing all sorts of friendly faces in front of me has definitely made the journey worth it from wherever I've come from to here. So it's a real pleasure to be here. It's a real privilege. And I think just to congratulate Abdul Qadir and Salahuddin and the team here, who've clearly put in a lot of effort to what I think is really a fantastic event to mark the launch officially of Islam Awareness Week and its 20th anniversary. I think every year we, as really essentially volunteers all over the country, the kinds of people that you see here, the good people, you could say, who we wonder every year, can we really pull this off? Can we really do it? And I think once again, we have done it. And, you know, it's something that we are all very proud of. But I think when we look back at 20 years ago, really the world was a different place then. We, as an organisation, still felt there was a need for Islam Awareness Week to sort of break down barriers, to deal with some of the myths around our faith. If you look at the world now, it's a very, very different place, and I think we could probably all agree that maybe there's more need now than there even was 20 years ago. I think the theme for this year for Islam Awareness Week is the things we have in common. And I think all too often we allow ourselves sometimes to be made to perhaps remember too much what we have that's different. And what we're trying to do this year, and always try and do through our work actually, is to think about, now actually, what do we really have in common? And this theme has been really interesting and exciting to be part of, actually, to put it together. And I would urge all of you to look on our website and have a look at some of the pairs of people that we've brought together through this. I don't know how many of you are as old as I am, or older maybe even, to remember some of the things from childhood. And we've had some really interesting conversations amongst our team and amongst wider circles about some of the things that we have in common. And it's amazing and really actually quite funny and really touching when you actually start to realize that, look, we have more in common from our childhood than we like to think we do. And things like Little House on the Prairie and Curly Whirlies and all of these quirky things that, you know, all of us remember. And we've been pairing people together to, and it's been some interesting conversations about some of this. People who, in some ways, had very, very different upbringings, but actually, when you look underneath all of that, you realize that all of us often come from the same place much more than we are made to feel. People who, you know, we have two, on our website, we have two young girls who are both interested in football. One's Muslim, one isn't, and, you know, they love football. It's good to say that in a football club. That's why I thought I should make that one, make sure I mentioned that one. You know, I'm a mother of 4, and any other mothers in the room, and happy belated Mother's Day for all of you from yesterday, you know, I actually have more in common sometimes with the mothers at the school gate than I do with people who maybe don't have children. You know, they relate to my hectic running around lifestyle more than maybe somebody who doesn't have children. So at those moments, we have more in common than I maybe do with other people. So I think it's just really important. And again, if people like us don't speak up, if we don't come together into what I would call the middle space, the middle majority, then the extremists on all sides actually take our voices and supposedly speak on our behalf. You know, and I sometimes listen to people who call themselves Muslim and actually supposedly speak in the name of my faith and really don't recognize what they're saying as being part of the same religion as me. And I think it's really important that we don't get complacent and we don't allow those people to take our voices and fill a vacuum. And by doing this kind of work, this is the way that we can make sure that doesn't happen. And I know I talk a lot, and anyone who knows me, my husband will be the first one to confirm that to you, that I do talk a lot. And I think we can all talk a lot, but we actually need to think about what we're going to do. You know, and even dinners like this is amazing, and you come together and people feel very comfortable with each other, you know, and the effort is really always worth it, of course it is. But we need to be thinking about what we're going to do after this. And do things together, you know, get our hands dirty, get involved with work together, social action, charity, and all of these things, build the friendships, you know, the real friendships that go way beyond dinners like this, when you actually get down to it and realize that you have genuine friendships with people all over and from different backgrounds. You know, there's on your program here, I've noticed, is the word salam in Arabic, which obviously, as we know, means peace. And it does mean peace, and I could stand here and say to you that Islam means peace. And it does mean peace. And when we say assalamu alaikum, we say peace be upon you. But I think, you know, I've been very inspired over the last few years by somebody called Jill Hicks, who, for those of you who don't know, Jill Hicks was a survivor, and is a survivor in every sense of the word, a survivor of the July the 7th bombings. And she was actually just, you know, a few feet away from, from one of the bombers, and in the process suffered some horrific injuries, including losing both of the bottom half of her legs. And I've actually got to know Jill as a friend now, and somebody who I have a lot of admiration for, and I have no idea how she's managed to be the way she is, and so inspirational. And one of the things that she's taught me is that the word peace is a doing word. It has to be an active word. It's not just a word, you know. And we can all sit here and say, yeah, we all want peace, but actually, what does that mean? And what are we going to do to create that? And it won't happen, you know, it won't happen by itself. So once again, thanks to the organisers of this for giving me, for all of us, a chance to come together to have what I'm sure is an amazing dinner, and for all of us to go away from here and making a personal commitment that what are we going to do to make that word peace into a doing word, and actually come together and do some work, get our hands dirty, get out there and really show the majority of this country who that middle space belongs to, and who this voice of reason and moderation actually belongs to, and really it belongs to all of us in this room. So I just want to quote one of the young people actually from one of the pairs that we have been highlighting. I'm not actually sure if he's here or not, maybe he is even here, but his name is Oliver, so we'll find out if he's here. Is he here? Oh, he's over there. Okay, very nice. So Oliver over there, I'm going to embarrass him now. I actually really liked one of the quotes that he said in summary. He said, "There are many people that want us to focus on our differences and not what we have in common." Adam and I, that was the person, he's also here, that was paired with, enjoy the same things, think the same, we have a good laugh, and we are so similar underneath. And that's why this is important, because more people need to appreciate that in the way that we do. And with Oliver's words of wisdom, I'll leave you at that. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. We're very happy to have the Lord Mayor of Sheffield with us today. Can you just tell us a bit more about your position and what it actually entails?
I'm the 116th Lord Mayor of Sheffield, and I took up office on the 16th of May 2012, and will finish office on the 15th of May 2013. As the Lord Mayor, I'm Sheffield's first citizen, and here to meet people who visit the city, and also to say well done to those people who've reached 100 years old, of which there have been quite a number this year. The 60th Diamond Weddings have also been very special this year, because they're falling in the Queen's Diamond Jubilee year as well. So as the Lord Mayor, I will do home visits to those people. I've visited numerous schools, youth clubs, many different societies, and as the Lord Mayor, it's just wonderful to see how many people from the voluntary sector contribute to ours being a successful city.
And what do you think of, I mean, Sheffield is a very diverse city, of course, and how do you think this is played out in society itself? And is there community cohesion, or are there some problems within the city?
Sheffield is not perfect, but in terms of community cohesion, we're a multicultural, multilingual city. We have 550,000 people who live in the city, but there are many different groups who look to work together in partnership to ensure that everybody tolerates the culture and race and the different ethnicity which we have in the city. I think as a consequence of the hard work which those groups put in, we don't see sometimes the problems which other cities experience. So, for example, when the other cities early in 2012 had the riots and things with the young people, we didn't have that in Sheffield. And I think it's because of the relationship built up across with all the groups, with all the agencies, that people talk to each other, people understand each other, and people look to resolve the differences rather than take to these streets. Sheffield's not perfect, and yes, there are pockets of incidents, as you will find in most places, but Sheffield's working hard to strive to take things further, and it's certainly a role model which other towns and cities should be looking at.
Do you think that in terms of Islamophobia, that Sheffield is doing enough to actually stem the rise of far-right groups who maybe espouse Islamophobic or racist views?
I think when you're challenging Islamophobia, those groups, whether they be far-right groups or any other organisation, are only as successful as you allow them to be. If communities stand together, do not allow themselves to be divided, do not allow the split, and seek to work together, as we're demonstrating tonight, then those far-right groups will not have any success in Sheffield. And indeed, we've never seen any far-right candidates have any political success in Sheffield.